Disruption. Hello everyone, I am Vansh Tyagi and I welcome you all to the structured series on Model United Nations, which has been titled as Simplified MUN with Vansh Tyagi. Before we understand how MUN works or how to win awards in MUN, as we have already understood that what is MUN in the last video, we must ask a more fundamental question. Why does MUN even exist? And to answer that, we need to go back in time to a world that had just witnessed unimaginable destruction. Yes, today we are discussing the history of model United Nations. The time which came after World War One. The World War One started way back in 1914 and it ended up in 1918. In the early 20th century, when the world experienced World War One, a conflict which was so devastating that it did not only shatter the armies, it shattered economies, societies, and millions of lives. Nations realized something very deeply that it got an unsettlement across the globe. The whole war wasn't just a battle between armies, they were catastrophes for humanity as well. And that is where the economy is going to collapse. And aftermath of that particular war, the World War One, led to a few questions. The scholars, educators, and policymakers began asking these questions to themselves. Can young people be taught diplomacy a bit earlier? As we all of us are literally known that if we understand anything at the very grassroots level, we can take it further in way more better and advanced senses when the person grows. This question was asked by all the educators, scholars, policymakers at that time after World War One. Can dialogue replace violence? A very important question. Can future leaders be trained before they inherit power? So these were a few questions which were very much prevalent across the timings when the World War One just got ended up in 1918. And with this, institutional roots of MUN took birth. And that was because of the organization which was formed after World War One, which is League of Nations. Although the League of Nations ultimately failed due to several aspects, like United States was not present in this particular League of Nations. There was inability to use military force and failure to stop aggression in Manchuria and Ethiopia during 1935. These are the basic limitations due to which League of Nations got a collapse. And also these are also the reasons why there was the outbreak of World War II. But this gave a rise to another organization, a successful another organization, which is United Nations, which was established in 1945. Soon after which, there were 51 founding member states to this particular organization, United Nations. It had got in power just after the World War II. It was set up to have more peace, security in the world. And that is where this particular fundamental organization of United Nations came into power. And there was a UN charter which was set up across and globe. And this was basically built with the lessons of League of Nations as well, which were of course meant to have international peace and security across. Soon after this, educators thought if diplomats negotiate here, why not train students to think like diplomats as well? And that is where the institutionalization of MUNs took place in 1954 at Harvard University. Yes, that is the first major modern Model United Nations conference which was held, and that was by Harvard University in 1954. And this was nowhere something related to entertainment, but it was always serious academic training into international relations, diplomacy, and negotiation. And that is where the structure of MUN was defined, which is being carried forward today even. This is how MUN took place out there. When, as the world entered into a Cold War, after World War II, even, we got into a lot of Cold Wars. Global politics became tense and polarized. When the world was polarized, MUN simulated and it began reflecting real world crises like USA versus USSR, nuclear threats, security dilemmas, ideological conflicts. These were a lot of reckless words which were placed in the situations of the globe in the period of Cold War. And that is where MUNs taught one crucial lesson to all the individuals, that how to disagree without destroying dialogue. And that is what MUN even teaches us, that how we can disagree with someone without destroying the dialogue. And that is how the MUN took its birth. So if we just take a revamp over the process of if we even go around the timeline of Model United Nations, so it started with a war. It was just because the World War One just ended up and there was too much of destruction. Then League of Nations was formulated, although it collapsed due to several reasons which I already mentioned. Then United Nations was created across on the basis of League of Nations. And then it became a part that we should train people, we should train more students from the grassroots level on the basis of UN. And that is where the Model United Nations took birth, and it was conducted at Harvard for the first time. And that is how Model United Nations took birth. And this just makes us understand the other factor, that the rules are not arbitrary for United Nations. Model United Nations is always based upon the UN Charter, which is of the UN. So the rules aren't arbitrary. The formality is just intentional. It is intentful, right? The emphasis on respect and cooperation is to deliberate. These are a few factors which we understand after knowing that history of Model United Nations comes with facts and figures. So MUN is not about sounding intelligent. It is about learning restraint, responsibility, and reason, which was created by people, not just as a competition, but as an educational response to a conflict. And trust me, it wasn't such a small conflict like we do have among our friends. It was nations who were fighting under the world wars. So that's it for today. In the next video, we'll explore why MUN is so valuable for students today and what skills it truly develops beyond the conference rooms. Thank you.